World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Jana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be leaked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is now.
Greetings and welcome to Access Wealth Nation with Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, giving you that checkup from the neck up to get your finances in order and on your financial journey, making the path easier. So as I am Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, we're going to have some fun today, but I just wanted to make some statements because this month is Women's History Month. And in being Women's History Month, we have some serious women in the world of finance that have made a difference and need to be acknowledged because it was not a straight and narrow road. The world of finance has been the good old boys club for so long. And a matter of fact, it's still the good old boys club, but women have put their sprinkle on it. I'd like to add on there is that this is important times because we have, as we know, the great wealth transfer that we talked about last week. And in that great wealth transfer, we have the opportunity for women to gain assets of over $30 trillion is estimated. But it's all through inheritance and building and really inheritance again, So with the position, and as we talked about before, is that if we don't build legacies, we won't be a part, or we won't have our young people part of the legacy. So we have to get our house in order so that we can help others as they progress in this world, where it's a life worth living, and there's a reason behind that. But I wanted to name some of the trailblazers because some of you may know and may not know them. There was Muriel Siebert, and she was the first, matter of fact, I think she was the only woman that held a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. That doesn't come lightly because there's an expense for that seat. It's trading quite well. Then we have someone who I've always admired in knowing in history is Maggie Lena Walker. Now, y'all may know her, may not, but she's the first African American woman to charter and lead a bank in the United States. And that again came from necessity. If you didn't want to take my money in my community and help my community, well, I'll build my own. And that's what she did. There's also, we've got, I go a little more modern, Melanie Hobbs. She was the co CEO for Ariel Investments, and it's still in existence today. And of course, we have the infamous Janet Yellen, who became the first woman to serve on the U.S. Treasury. You know, she was managing the money. And so as we go further in, yes, I have to say, you have Jana B. Woodhouse, Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, first African American woman to trade as a full service broker on the exchange. These are the things that are important to know because we put our positions out there. We look, but women, I will say, are the ones that do the best on the market. Why? We know how to work the market. And it will come to a day that we'll see more women helping in the financial industry because we no longer are going to have to just rely upon the men to tell us what to do. It's not a bad thing. It's nice when you work together, but the key is that we need to know. That leads to the books. Of course, we all have the access to these books. You'll go to my website, uh, wealthwave.com. Sorry about that, brain freeze for a minute. Wealthwave.com /Jana B. And that's Jana with a J, as y'all know. So we have the How Money Works book, Stop Being a Sucker. Then we have the most important for this year and this month is How Money Works for Women. Take control or lose it. And this is very important because assets are moving, they're on the move. And as they're doing that, you need to be in a position by which you know what to do with it. And in that book, it talks about 9 different scenarios of what we need to know about money. And I'm proudly to say that I have a quote in the book. And it says in there that, of course, knowledge is power. Hey, but action is queen. So, in addition, for you young folks, there is the How Money Works for the Next Gen. That's between the ages of 18 to 40. Never thought that I would say that next gen would be someone 40 years old. But anyway, they have to take action. Act now or pay later. These books are available. All you have to do is go to wealthwave.com /Jana B and click the button that you want the books. And the key that I say is it's not free because you need to read it. Read the books. Of course, I have the rules that if you need assistance, and in the books, they all talk about the discovery call. And it's to basically discover where you are right now and where you want to be. And in doing that, you need a plan because without a plan, you are planning to fail. So if you're interested in getting assistance, you can call 646-375-2121 and say that you heard this information on Access Wealth Nation, and we will be glad to serve you. And that being said, also, we have a little thing going on right now, which is the financial quiz. Having time with words. Okay. The financial literacy quiz. So if you really are kind of shy about, I don't know what I know, but I know that I know. Okay. So if that's the case, you can go to the financial literacy quiz. And it's financialliteracyindex.com /Jana B. Now, we don't monitor nor do we sell information, but we want to help you to know where you are and then where you want to go and how you learn. So, we do these classes on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We have the opportunity to help people. Now, we haven't started them back again. I tried to do this, but again, y'all know this is tax season and we're trying to get and help all people with all these new tax laws. And I think next week I'm going to talk about the tax laws. because people have a lot of misnomers about it. But that being said, we will be starting our classes, and I say that if you have any desire to be in the classes, just give us a call at 646-375-2121 or email me, and I'll give you the listing of how our classes is at 7 o'clock. It's 30-minute classes, and I tell folks they can get educated in their PJs. So come join us for our mission, our crusade to bring financial literacy to America. And it can be done because we're doing it. It's becoming every week, every day we're seeing it. So those of you who are listening, I love my listening audience that comes, and I love y'all who come after. And I just say is if you have any questions, inquiring about anything that I can answer. If I can't, then I'll tell you. I will come back with the answer. But if you have questions, comments, please put them in the chat and we will address them. Now, I got to introduce my guest. She is a phenomenal woman. Okay, you know, Maya Angelou talks about the phenomenal woman. She is a phenomenal woman, a wonderful mother and wonderful wife, but a dynamic financial educator. In addition to that, she has her company. And today we're going to talk about establishing financial security, okay, so that we can engage and integrate into every part of our life's worth living. Life worth living, establishing financial security so that joy can be integrated. Joy can be integrated in every part of a life worth living. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, instead of running away from finances and being depressed in the fact that you what you don't have, find joy in what you do have. So with no further ado, I'd like to bring on my guest. I want to say doctor because she's just like that. But Lenka Holtzman, financial educator, dynamic founder of A Life Worth Living. Welcome, Lenka.
Well, good afternoon.
Oh yeah, you in that other side of the world.
I am. It's still afternoon over here. I still have sunlight outside.
We got sunlight.
Well, you want to talk about the temperature?
Okay, so you know sometimes people got to push a little bit more, right? That's what y'all do. But it is. I'm so glad that you have the opportunity to join us for Access Wealth Nation. There's a lot going on, but we have talked many a times about your company, A Life Worth Living. So I wanted to say, how did you come up with this company, A Life Worth Living?
Well, it's come through decades, and I won't date myself. I'll just say decades worth of conversations, worth seeing how many times an individual can be stressed out about things, specifically money. One of the things that I consistently find is that a person's security had nothing to do with their balance sheets. I saw the range all over the place. People who you would think might feel insecure are at complete peace, complete joy, absolutely giving, and with no worry. And then the other end of the spectrum was the same.
Mm,
Sometimes individuals who you would think would have no problems in life definitely felt stressed. And so I kind of started paying attention to what the patterns were. And I realized that there was so much more, and you could have peace and joy, absolute, complete joy at every level of stability financially.
hmm. So in that financial, you know, we all chase what's called abundance. We want to be rich, wealthy, more wealthy than rich, I think. But I know people don't know really the definition behind that. But what is the levels that people go through? You said that they go through different levels in
Hmm.
their thoughts,
Yeah.
their so tell us a little bit more.
Okay. So most of the time, individuals who go to the seminars and read the books and go through a discovery process, what they end up hearing on a consistent basis is, are you in scarcity or are you in abundance? And it's as if that is an on off switch. And it's not an on off switch. What I've found is I'd take a look at someone, and maybe I had gone to some sort of a seminar or I had watched something, and I would say, they're not here, but they're not really in abundance either. Or they're doing something that feels like abundance. And so there's actually more of a sliding scale. And people have a tendency to go through that. There are three different levels that I have personally seen between scarcity and abundance.
What are those levels?
So, when you're closest to abundance, one of the dangerous steps down below is actually conditional comfort.
Conditional. Okay, so you know you're going to have to expand. What is
Yeah.
conditional comfort?
Well, someone who says, I'm perfectly fine. I have a job, it pays my bills, everything's good. Everything is moving forward as planned. But when life doesn't work as planned, there's an illness, there's a loss of a job, there's a COVID pause. I don't care what the issue is. If there's a cause, all of a sudden anxiety comes
Mm.
in. And so basically you're on the edge. I'm good. I'm good. I've got the Tesla. I've got the whatever. I've got the house on the hill. And that can be really close to abundance. However, the anxiety can be there at the drop of a hat.
So is it really a comfort, or is it just it's kind of lying to
Oh,
yourself? Or
well, people are comfortable there until they're not.
Mm, okay,
Until they're
so
not.
disruption occurs,
That's
such
right.
as like you mentioned, COVID arrived, and many people got very diseased. They did diseased. They didn't know how to handle it. They didn't have things in place. And like you said, is that there were a lot of people who had that image that, oh, you should be able to make it through this.
Mhm.
And then when the truth came out, some of them were jumping out of windows. It
Yeah.
was that bad.
It was that bad. It was that bad. And so it's when disruption happens, that's just one of the areas. What I see young people mostly, and you may identify some of these sounds, they're in what I call financial neutrality. And when I say neutrality, they're not really extremely stressed. They'll tell you things like, I would rather work for something that has purpose than for money. Money isn't going to be a big deal for me. Or they'll say something along the lines, well, I'm never going to be able to afford a house of my own.
Mm.
So I'm just going to go have an avocado toast and a latte and I'm going to YOLO. It's a completely different calmness. Once again, you're not anxious or anything. And that's very different than scarcity.
That's
But
interesting. That's sort of like complacency because I'm running into now as we talk
hmm,
to younger people, and I'm not going to downgrade the youth of today, but a lot are very comfortable on Ma's couch. you know?
and you know what? I'm going to give them a little bit of credit.
Okay.
Okay, that younger generation, I'm not considering it complacency. It's a bit of hopelessness. And
Mm.
when you take a look at that same thing, they really don't think that their own efforts will get them to that next level. And so if there is no hope of that, then they try to almost make themselves comfortable right where they're at.
Hmm.
And that can actually be very easy to switch somebody out of, because as soon as those individuals who sometimes have pretty darn good incomes see a possibility of success, of achievement, of being completely stable, they have the opportunity of moving forward. And very often, and I say this very, very distinctly, very often, they will not get stuck in conditional comfort
Mm.
because they will have thought about it when they were spiraling in this little loop. And they're like, oh, so I just don't want to be stretching myself to pay every penny for the extra car payment, the extra house payment. I don't want to be like my parents. I can actually do things differently, and I can skip that stage and go to true abundance.
But that's also a little dangerous because okay, so long as you have the support of
That
mom
part.
and pa, okay, or grandma and grandpa, or the infamous aunt somebody, because there's always someone you know, while you live in that comfort of it, knowing that you have a backup, that can happen to disappear real quick.
If they don't snap out of it,
And then that per se, so I know that's basically, what would you say is like the dangerous level that people fall in?
that would be the one that's lower. The two above, the two that we just talked about, I have hope for. I have tremendous hope. My fear is for individuals who are below that. They are they believe that they are in abundance,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality they're in financial avoidance. I
Mm.
actually saw someone who was in complete financial scarcity, however, had a very good job making very good money. Okay. And all of a sudden decided, I'm going to be in a financial abundance. I'm going to meditate on things and money will come my way. And this individual spent, and I remember the number very distinctly, $42,000 on credit cards to be in seminars and be around people of abundance.
That's trouble.
That didn't work because this individual thought that by spending the money and believing that it would come back to him in some mystical manner, all of a sudden he would jump over and not have to do any of the work. So the people who are in avoidance are really refusing to do the work. They just want to meditate in a corner and stare at a vision board. Don't get me wrong, I have vision board right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's right there. I have no problem with vision boards. It's when you're not putting the work to it, because none of this is easy. Every single one of them requires some sort of sacrifice.
It does. And that's the thing that I like about the next generation book, because it says act now or pay later. And that's what I'm hearing is that a lot of people think that it's going to be, oh, I'll take care of that later. I'll do that later. Or as you said, there are people, individuals that are thinking that they don't need to buy a house. Maybe they're waiting for mom and pa to kick the bucket so they can get the house. But can you
Inheritance,
afford those things?
right?
And so, in a life worth living, how does a financial educator fall into this? How do they play into it?
Well, there's two ways. One is the mechanics, and then the other one is the discernment. The mechanics piece is very straightforward. It is what we are taught when we are taking these classes, when we are going through certifications. I just got another one dealing specifically with Social Security. There are so many ways that we can get educated to assist our clients. And that is straightforward. The way, and now I'm going to plug for women advisors, the way that women advisors can really bridge the gap for the other pieces is we're not always staring at spreadsheets.
Mm.
One of the things that we're doing is we're sitting and we're listening between the lines. Okay. You said you got that job 3 days ago. You start in 2 weeks and you already bought the car. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. And, I pick on cars and houses because they are a very large expense. I live in California. Where
Mm-hmm.
I live, you cannot get by without a car, without a whole lot of inconvenience. So having transportation is pretty darn important.
Yeah.
But
Along with your $8 a gallon gas.
and we have that too. We have that too. Do not get me started on politics. Because that's what that is. Anyway, that being said, without going down that rabbit hole, the reality of it is every single part of this country has its own unique challenges. If you have somebody who is paying attention and really listening, not just to what's on the spreadsheets, but beyond that, what are your stressors? What are the things that are genuinely most important to you? Let me give you an example of that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a young lady come to me, and when I say young lady, she's a grandma with a high school grandson in high school. And she came to me and she wanted a second opinion on her finances.
Okay.
And I took a look at what her advisor had done. And because I knew her socially, I was a little hesitant to even bring her on as a client or anything. I said, he's doing a great job. Much of what he is doing for you, I would do exactly the same, with minor tweaks that really wouldn't make that much of a difference. You're on track. And she just kept pushing me. And finally she said, but he's mean to me. I said, what? And he said, he told her, he said that she was not allowed to pause some of her contributions to her retirement account because if she does stuff like that, she's going to end up homeless. These are the words that came out of this man's mouth.
Uh-oh.
And I just said, well, why do you need to pause? And she said, I just wanted to stop for 6 months because my grandson wanted to go to football camp and mom's not in the picture. Mom isn't really the individual to be able to pay for something like that. And grandma said, this is so important to him. And I said, well, this is ridiculous. 6 months? You're fine. I saw your numbers. You're fine. Do it. And she was just, okay, I'm going to be okay. And we went through the process and she did become my client. And fast forward, now mind you, fast forward to 1 year after he graduated from high school, he came down with an aggressive form of cancer.
Oh.
Now, thank God, he's fine.
Oh.
He got through everything. But what it did do is it squashed his opportunity to play in the pros. But he got the full experience in high school. And she did come back to me and say, I'm so glad we did that. And it was what was important. She knew in her heart, she didn't know what was going to happen.
No.
But she knew in her heart this was important. And when you pay attention to it, let's face it, money is worth absolutely nothing if it's not put to a good use.
That's true. And if we focus in is not on the money, it's on the dreams and the goals. And we've been through this in discussion that's why I think a life worth living is so important to be out here, because as you said, the younger group is focusing on purpose. They want to, you know, I can become, which I've heard this, I can create a little garden on the street, and I'm feeding a little community with the vegetables and fruit, and I feel fulfilled. Or like one of my clients, she crochets, and I told her that she could set up so that she could sell handmade crocheted items. That's very nice. And hated every moment of it until we turned it into a giving. And she would just crochet, and she gave, and she would look at the person, and they'd say, "How much is this?" And she said, "Give love." And I was like, okay, maybe we can tweak this a little bit so that there could be a little bit more income. But that was what was in her heart. And I, as the advisor, needed to remember that there's more than just being able to pay the bills. When you look at truly what's out here in this world and what people go through, a little bit of love or a lot of bit of love is necessary. And you have to have something more, because when they put you in the ground, it's over. At least for that moment, it's over.
Yeah.
And we need something. My dream is always to say that I touch some lives. My mother had a poem at the end. She says, well, hopefully, amongst all of us, some will mourn for us after all, and that's it, is that, someone will remember and that's important. That says, it's, what is it? A great soldier, you have done a great service to the Lord, and a job well done. You have done a well done, and that's important. So, we're going back into you've done some writing,
Hmm.
and I wanted to talk about some of the things that you've done. I understand that you are going to have what's called a listening party. Is that related to some of your writing?
A little bit, yes, yes. One of my, well, actually, two of my co-authors will be on this podcast. I'll be interviewed on the podcast, and it's really going to be. It was a lot of fun to do because it was a little bit of a reunion. And there's the picture. Patrina has been a dear friend for, actually, I've known her longer than I've known you, a good long time. And we have worked on projects together. It's for the Anatomy of Abundance was the book that we worked on together. And her living room podcast discusses many of the content items of that book and the next chapters of the Anatomy of Abundance. Because it's
I was
a,
looking for my copy, and now I don't, but I see you have one behind you.
yes, I do. I have one behind me. Um, there it is.
There we go. Yes.
Hmm.
And it's a great book. It's a compilation of thought and power. And so tonight at okay, they got this time thing. So it's 9 o'clock Eastern time.
I know.
And you can go on YouTube, so you can listen to this podcast in your PJs, you know, and establish just to listen to. And I love her name. Her name is Wisdom. That's awesome. But she's hosting it, and you will be speaking, or you.
That will be on the podcast. Yes, we're doing a virtual and an in-person watch party. As soon as we're done here, I'm getting in the car, trudging through traffic so that I can get to the in-person viewing. But we're doing this across the country, actually internationally. There will be international viewers. There's a pretty substantial following, and that QR code will bring you to the YouTube channel.
Awesome. And if they do, they can also look for living room wisdom too.
That is
That
correct.
could pop up because with YouTube, sometimes you got to hunt and peck to
You
try to
know.
get to something. But
And you just look for the lovely lady with the angel hair.
there you go. Yes, got her own halo.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does.
But that's awesome. And so, out of this copulation, can you tell us a little bit about? Because I think people need to go and buy this book.
Yeah. Well, what I can say is there are different, it's in the anatomy of abundance. And just as we have different parts of our body, and each part of our body serves us in a different way, the abundance piece, just like we talked about the fact that abundance financially specifically is not an on off switch, there are different parts of abundance. We touched on it or just hinted towards it, that abundance is not just financial. It can be emotional. It can be the
Mm,
relational wealth. It can be the personal self worth. It can be your physical wealth, being abundant in your physicality. There are so many pieces of that. And all of these chapters, the way it's set up is each one of the areas of abundance is discussed. And then, in addition to that, it's broken down to the higher laws, the more spiritual discussions. And then beneath that, as supporting, are the foundational laws, some of the more hardcore realities that, if we can use the physical wealth, you can do as much yoga meditation as you want. However, if you're putting poisons into your body,
mm,
whether they be legal or illegal, you will not have true abundance on a physical plane. And so it discusses both of those pieces, which without one or the other, you're not complete.
well, if that's the case, then how does one tap into this? I mean, they read the book. Okay, I got the book. Okay. So you read the book, but what's the phase to start the action? What are some of the tips to?
I genuinely believe it's community.
Hmm,
Because if you find community, whether it be watching podcasts, whether it be finding someone in your neighborhood who is doing a get together along the lines of abundance, what you find is a support group, because the world out there will drag you down. It will absolutely pull you into the cesspool, quite frankly.
ooh,
It will tear you into scarcity. All you have to do is take a look at the social media or the news, God forbid the news. And you'll see the fact that if it bleeds, it reads. Let's advertise that instead of focusing on the reality that what I genuinely believe is that the majority of human beings on the face of the earth want more, want better, want abundance and peace.
and that not necessarily deals with a big bank account. That deals with a big spiritual account.
Yeah.
Where you have to engage yourself. To do more for yourself, but for others. I see today's world is that we're so separated from each other when it comes down to talking about things.
Oh,
I still can't get over going into a restaurant and watching people sit at the same table.
oh no,
I
don't get
can't.
me started. Don't get me started.
And therefore, how do you learn anything? How do you develop? There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of podcasts and things that are out there, but more so the one-on-one. And I sort of get the feeling with, a life worth living has some things to do with that touchy feely part
Yeah.
that human part.
Oh, it very much does. Because if you don't have connection, you are alone.
Mm,
And that's so much more than those words. To be alone. I've watched individuals who have felt alone, and there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse.
yeah.
And when you touch people, it can be for a second, it can be for a moment, and you may never see them again. But you saw a smile cross their face that might not have come that day.
Mm,
And that has been really the core of what I want to bring. I've done a few fun things, as you know, as you have heard the stories of, and those have been the ones that I really, really hope live beyond me, because those moments of joy, and that's the reason why in our little tagline here, joy is capitalized. Those are the things that will lift us.
yeah, and that can lift you beyond. It's interesting you say that because I remember years ago when we had Katrina, and people lost everything. So we thought. And I think I liken it to that is that I remember watching them walk across. At that time it was in Mississippi. I watched people walk, but there was a glow, and it was curious about where did you done lost everything. Maybe hello, maybe y'all didn't realize you lost everything, but then you really didn't,
Right.
because you didn't lose yourself.
Hmm.
And that's what I think in the midst of a lot of times when we lose things physically, we enlighten and get stronger in the spiritual realm,
Yeah.
you know. And so I got that. Okay, so there's one more question that says is there income levels associated with the stages?
Absolutely not.
No income level.
Not a little bit. I actually know of one young lady. She was intently involved with her church. She had a single mom, two kids, two two kids, and she had a there was a giving campaign, and it was for a very specific mission that was coming out that
Mhm.
somebody wanted to go to, and her children were on fire. They saw about it and they wanted to give to this. And as a mom, she took a deep breath. On public assistance, you name it, everything. And she gave a small amount. It wasn't a large amount, but it was something she was thinking, well, we're going to have to cut a little on the grocery budget because of
Mhm.
it. Okay. And after she gave it and she talked to her children and she says, we're going to have to cut back because we're giving. They said, that's okay. That's okay. And they were happy to give it. And their children actually were the ones who handed over that money. And believe it or not, she received an unexpected check
There
for
it is.
$20 more than she had given.
And see,
And
that's that lesson. I see it. You can't get anything like this.
no,
You have to open it up. But that's a challenge though, because you got to put food on the table. We hear this all the time. You've got to be able to pay your rent or be able to have some place to live. Here in New York, it kind of gets depressing because you see so many people on the street, and
well, that's
they
cross country. That is cross country.
yeah,
Here in California, you drive down the freeway and there are tents all along the freeway.
and That's interesting because it comes to mind when I was growing up, there was this woman, Eleanor Bumpers, and she, I think, really wanted to live on the street. She found her power in the street, and her family tried to take her off, and stuff, and she always wound up back, on the street. And as a little girl, I was like, I don't get it. You want to stay on the street, be in the cold, have all sorts of stuff come on you, vermin and all of that stuff. And but when she got interviewed, she says, "This is where my peace is." And to this day, it's kind of still hard for me to pick up because, yes, I understand giving. I love that when I can. And I love the idea of freedom and being in the flowers. And one day I will get to our infamous Disney because I want that experience. Because Linka has warned me about all the things that I can do at Disney, but in addition to it, to have fun. And that's what I admire with you is that you really do take the time to have some fun. I have pictures galore of you and some of my favorite characters out there and enjoying and having special nights. And I think that helps us live longer.
I do believe so. I genuinely do. It's a life worth living. And it might seem like a cheesy tagline, but it is so true. Why would you always just miser away everything and then not have the connection with people, not have the experiences that just make you smile?
So, point in fact, you meet someone or you see someone that doesn't have necessarily a lot. How do you address them to help them to get through the stages to get to a more abundant consciousness?
Well, it's really focusing on what you do have. What are the things that you do have? And what are the things that you can let go of that might make you actually more secure?
Mm.
Once again, picking, and I'll call it that, picking on the houses. I've actually watched, and it must be 20 years ago now, probably 20 years ago. They're a very affluent neighborhood near where I live, and I was came to this house as a referral, and I knew that there were two professionals. It was a doctor and a lawyer, husband and a wife, two kids, gated community,
Mm.
three, not two, three new cars in the garage in the driveway, and they weren't even conditional comfort. They were in scarcity. They were terrified that tomorrow they weren't going to be able to pay their bills because they were right on the edge.
Mm.
They had overextended. They had gotten the wrong kind of mortgage, and all of a sudden they realized they couldn't afford it. Had they had not three new cars, but maybe two, had they not gone to the gated community, but the nice community right next door in the same school district, then they would have been able to breathe. This is a husband and a wife who are having to pick up extra shifts all the time. They
Mm.
weren't able to go to the kids' soccer games. It wasn't soccer, it was actually tennis that the little girl was playing.
Okay.
And they couldn't even be part of their children's lives because they were spending all of their time trying to support this artificial standard that they thought a doctor and a lawyer should have.
That's one of the things that I'm seeing more of now, and people think it's crazy because there was this broker who was doing so well, and he sold everything, and he wound up going to a beachfront and selling seashells on the seashore. And then it was another young lady. She wanted to. She liked the idea of doing cartwheels on the beach, so she was very settled and done, and then sold everything so that she could go to the beach when she wanted to. And that's all she wanted to do. And eat what she wanted to eat. And I was like, okay, is that abundance?
For
Or
some
what's
people, it is. I'm sorry, I do need a home. I'm not a nomad. Tent, not happening. When my girls were Girl Scouts, the very last camping trip, and I did all the camping trips with my daughters.
bless you.
The very last one, I looked through and I said, "Yep, that's my bag of clothes. Everything else stays on the driveway. Girls, take what you want. The rest is going to Goodwill. I don't want it. I'm not doing it again. No." So I need stability. I need that. I would not feel abundant. I would feel completely exposed and unsafe if I didn't have that. But you have to see what is your joy. I know plenty of people who would take a look at what I do and enjoy, and they would consider it a torture. I have a family member who I adore him, but when he hears what I want to do for a vacation, ooh, he just cringes. And I hear his and I go, ooh, I just cringe. It's just you're different, and that's
So it works just really into what your consciousness is. And then as you develop, does it expand sometimes or
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Very much so. Very much so. Because then you start seeing possibilities. Okay. I don't want to say that everybody needs to go and have just seashells on the beach, or once you retire, you're going to sell everything. That's not the case. That is absolutely not the case. What if you want to have a larger home so you can host charity events?
Mhm. Okay. All right.
What if your dream is to create a ranch where you can have, and we know stories of this, have a ranch where you can host families who have children who have disabilities?
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
What if that is what absolutely lights your fire? Then you will find the ways to get to that point. But you need the community. And it means the bean counters. It means the people who are willing to take a look at it and say, hmm, if you really want the life that you want, doing X, Y, and Z is not going to get you there.
That's interesting. And everybody listening can reach you on Lenka, Lenka Holman, HOLMAN.com. And on that site, they get to see some of the things they can do as far as a life worth living.
Yeah. I have some stories on there. You can pull down some of the stories, and there are a number of different ways that you can reach out to me.
That's so important because we give a lot of information here. And like I said, my listeners have it. And thank you all out there. Sometimes they're robust and sometimes they're kind of quiet. But the key is that they're here for education. They're here to expand life. You know, that's why I love the title. A life worth living because yeah, we all want to. I think we all want a life that's worth living.
Mhm.
But it's all in how our perspective is. Like you were saying, there's the vision board. There are people who utilize. Years ago, I used to do a vision board. Then I stopped. And I might start again. Because I think, and the company that we're related to has a video that talks about dreaming and how important it is for us to dream. I think about the CEO and founder of Soul City. He's such a dreamer. Sometimes it get on my nerves, but he's a dreamer. He
Well, I
dreams.
will say and I would like to kind of end on this note in that it's not all woo woo, it's not all touchy feely. Getting it sometimes it is actual work, and on the website there are actual worksheets
Oh,
and ways that you can actually narrow down what's important to you, because society tells us, family tells us, our religions tell us what are supposed to be important to us. But what if you could go through exercises that can narrow down what's actually in your core? And there are ways to do that.
and once you narrow it down, though, is there a way that someone can be worked with, or how would they, because it's almost like I want to liken it to, or I'm going to say it this way. You have a pain in your stomach, and then all of a sudden you sort of move it away. You see things on the internet, you think, okay, I can solve this. And then you wind up at the doctor's office, and it's not so good. And they're like, you should have been there before. But then, the doctor's going to work with you to try to help cure this.
Yeah.
But this is not something physical. This is something really metaphysical. And so then at that point, okay, so they go to the site, they do the exercise. Okay, now what?
Now you stay in community of individuals, whether it be professionals and or other people of like mind, to keep you on track. You got to have that accountability. It's not a bad thing. What it is it's a support that actually frees you to stay on the right path.
Okay. So then you create or you tap into a community. Is it done through social media, or, because we're so distant. I'm thinking about one day doing something physical with a group for education, because it's so bad we don't get together.
Yeah. No. And that's the reason why I'm going to a physical watch party in a few minutes.
There you go. You're going to enjoy it. Those of you who can, I think you can tap in, and it's on YouTube. It's the Living Room Wisdom Podcast Watch Party. And you'll get a chance to see Lenka again and hear from her. We're going to see Lenka a lot, because Lenka and I we may be on two separate sides of this country, but we are joined at the hip. And I want to thank you so much, Lenka, for coming on and sharing this wisdom, because we talk about finance all the time, but we don't talk about the spirituality of finance. And that's the whole thing. It's a reason why they call it currency, because it gives you energy.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And I know we'll hear from our listeners. We'll embrace and get a chance to go to the podcast. We got a lot of stuff getting ready to hint, get ready to go. So I want to thank you. Enjoy. I'll see you at your podcast, your watch party. And thank you all for listening. You are listening to Access Wealth Nation with Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, giving you that checkup from the neck up on your journey to your financial freedom. And in doing so, we are broadcast on the Soul City Network and WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. Have a good one. Good night. Be safe, Lenka.
Thank you.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be linked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is magic.